So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I love talking on things, movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing the latest season of Doctor Who. So, let's get into it, shall we? Doctor Who Season 15, aka Doctor Who Season 2. I'm going to call it Doctor Who Season 15 for the sake of this review today, because this, in my opinion, is still part of that era of Doctor Who that we rebooted all the way back in 2005 when I started to watch Doctor Who. I didn't watch any of the classic Doctor Who episodes, leading up to Sylvester McCoy before the show got cancelled. My introduction to Doctor Who was with Christopher Eccleston as a Doctor, and then I truly fell in love with the show when David Tennant became the 10th Doctor. So yeah, I am including this as part of the reboot era of Doctor Who. That's why I'm calling it Season 15 of Doctor Who. However, I would understand if somebody called it Season 2 of Doctor Who. I'm not against somebody calling it Season 2. I understand why Disney and the BBC are calling it the Season 2 of Doctor Who. They want to bring in new viewers, so I completely get that, but personally for me, this is Season 15 of Doctor Who. And Season 15 of Doctor Who once again sees Rusty Davies as the showrunner and Ncuti Gatwa returning for the second time in his second season as the Doctor. And you also see Millie Gibson return as Ruby Sunday in this season. However, she's not the main companion in the season, and instead the main companion is Belinda. I forgot her second name off the top of my head, but it's Belinda, played by Varadu Seethu. Apologies if I mispronounced the name. It might be Varadar Seethu, but anyway, apologies if I mispronounced the name, but she is the main companion in this season of Doctor Who. And I was really looking forward to the season of Doctor Who because I really enjoyed the last season of Doctor Who. I didn't love it, and I will admit I was slightly disappointed by it, but the last season of Doctor Who became appointment television for me all over again. And that was something I missed from Doctor Who for such a long time. I fell off Doctor Who during the Matt Smith era. It just became too sci-fi heavy in my opinion. I spoke about this on this channel in the past. I really fell off during the Matt Smith era. Nothing against Matt Smith as a Doctor, I thought he was great, but the era just became too timey-wimey and interconnected and everything. It felt like you had to watch every episode to understand what was going on. And so I fell off during the Matt Smith era, and I haven't really been on board with Doctor Who since then. I've seen bits and pieces of the Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker eras, but it wasn't until the anniversary specials with David Tennant and Catherine Tate that I started to really get back into Doctor Who once Rusty Davies came on back to being the showrunner. And by the way, if you don't know who Rusty Davies is, he was the showrunner on Doctor Who during the Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant eras of Doctor Who. In my opinion, the best eras of Doctor Who. So when he came back onto showrunning Doctor Who, as you'd guess, I was very excited, and that's when I started to get back into it. And like I said before, I really enjoyed the last season of Doctor Who, the season that fully focused on Ncuti Gatwa as a Doctor with his companion Ruby Sunday. However, I didn't love that season. Not every episode worked to me 100%, and the last episode in particular of the last season, I didn't think was particularly good. It was a disappointing finale, and I was hoping going into this season that Rusty Davies would up his game as a writer, because, looking back in the David Tennant era, I didn't love David Tennant's first season with Rose. What I can remember, I remember really enjoying it, but I was much younger back then as well. And now I go back and rewatch some of those episodes where it's David Tennant and Rose, and as good as where it's, the 10th Doctor and Rose, and as good as some of those episodes are, there are also some episodes which are a little shaky, and, probably if I watched that first season with the 10th Doctor and Rose now, I'm not sure if I would think it's a brilliant season. And then when you watch the season with the 10th Doctor and Martha, I do think the writing is better than you watch the season with the 10th Doctor and Donna, and it's like, wow, the writing is absolutely brilliant. So I was hoping a similar thing was going to happen with this era of Doctor Who, that Rusty Davies would come in with the second season and up his game as a writer, that the writing team behind Doctor Who, because not just Rusty Davies, I'm making it sound like he writes all the episodes, he doesn't, but nevertheless I was hoping that the writing team behind this era of Doctor Who would up their game with season 2, up the stakes and flesh out the characters more. Let's see more about this version of the Doctor, the 15th Doctor. Let's see more about Ruby Sunday. Let's flesh out these characters and give them their time to shine. And so that is what I was hoping with this season of Doctor Who, and also I was really excited about this season of Doctor Who because I loved the Christmas special. I haven't spoken about that on this channel. I was planning to do a reaction on Christmas Day 2024 to the Christmas special of Doctor Who. What was it called? I don't think it's on the screen right now. I've got iPlayer, but I'll just get it up. It's not that. Well, apparently the Christmas special isn't on BBC iPlayer. Is it on season 1? Yes, it's on season 1, sorry. It's Joy to the World. I thought that was a really wonderful episode that felt Christmassy and reminded me of how good Doctor Who Christmas specials can be. Not to say that Ncuti Gatwa's first Doctor Who Christmas special was bad, but I much preferred the second special. And because I preferred the second special, I was thinking, oh, if the writing is this good in this special of Doctor Who, I wonder what it's going to be like in this Ncuti Gatwa's second season. I wonder if it's going to be, I wonder if the writing's going to be this good, and I wonder if the episodes are going to be, I can't speak apparently, this enjoyable to watch, as much as, I wonder if, what am I trying to say here? I wonder if the episodes in Ncuti Gatwa's second season are going to be as enjoyable as his second Christmas special. So I went into this season of Doctor Who hoping for the best, but also prepared to maybe not like one or two episodes in the season, and maybe even be disappointed by the finale. However, after finishing this season of Doctor Who yesterday, I'm very happy to say that I loved this season. I thought this season of Doctor Who was fantastic. Sure, it's not without its flaws, and I do wish the episodes were longer. You know, the episodes are still 45 minutes long, and, well, for the most part, I felt like the last episode in the season was slightly longer. I'm not sure it was. I haven't looked at the length of the last episode. I might look at it now, actually. It's going to say on here. No, it doesn't say on BBC iPlayer. I've got BBC iPlayer open, but apparently it doesn't say the length of the episode, so there you go. But apart from the last episode, every episode in the season was about 45 minutes long, and I do feel that the episodes should be longer. I miss the days when the episodes of Doctor Who were about an hour long, because even like when you met new side characters in those episodes, you actually got to know them when it's an hour long, yet you don't always get to know the side characters in these 45-minute episodes, and I do think that's a flaw with the 45-minute episode structures. Plus, this season is still only 8 episodes long. Let's put it back to 10 episodes. You know, I miss the 10-episode series longer of Doctor Who, where we really get to know our companions. And that's not to say we don't get to know the companion in this season of Doctor Who, but I would have liked to see more of her, and I think we would have seen more of her if this season was longer. But still, yeah, I might have some problems and some nitpicks here and there, but, well, the thing is, I enjoyed, and I thoroughly enjoyed, at that, every single episode in this season of Doctor Who. There was not one episode where I came away thinking, you know what, that was quite bad and I didn't really get that. And I did with the first season of Ncuti Gatwa. And Ncuti, or is it Ncuti? I've heard his name be referred to as Ncuti Gatwa, but I've also heard his name being referred to as Ncuti Gatwa. So for the sake of this review today, I'm going to say Ncuti Gatwa, but I've heard somebody, yeah, I remember in his first season, and there was a couple episodes where I came away and I was like, that wasn't really for me. But in this season, every episode I came away from, I went, you know what, that was a thoroughly enjoyable. I had a thoroughly enjoyable time watching that episode, and I kind of didn't expect to, but I'm so glad that I did. I mean, some episodes are better than others, for sure. You're going to get that of a show of this nature where it's like a monster each week. And the thing is, you know, any TV show you watch, some episodes are going to be better than others. That's just how TV kind of works, in my opinion. But I loved every episode in its own way in this season of Doctor Who, right from the Robot Revolution, or the Christmas special if you want to start there, but then right onto the Robot Revolution, right onto Lux, right onto The Well, right onto Lucky Day, which is my favourite episode of this season of Doctor Who, the episode with Ruby Sunday, with the return of Ruby Sunday and Conrad. That episode I thought was absolutely brilliant, and I was watching that episode thinking, this is going to annoy a certain group of people, and you know what, it's going to annoy the right group of people, in my opinion. And I loved the story and the engine. I thought that was actually a very clever episode. The Interstellar Song Contest was wonderful. I even thought Rylan was good in that episode, and I'm not really a fan of Rylan. I've got nothing against him. He's just one of those people I find a bit ubiquitous. He's always on TV, and I don't like that. But I don't like that about most people. I've always seen him on TV. But I thought he was alright at that episode, and that episode also had a cameo from Graham Norton, who I'm a big fan of. I watch the Graham Norton show almost all the time whenever it's on. So yeah, I enjoyed the Interstellar Song Contest. Wish World I thought was Well, very engaging, and the reality war I thought was a crazy episode. Not all of it worked, but that's the thing about Rusty Davis written episodes of Doctor Who. Even back during the Chris Eccleston and David Tennant eras, not all the writing in those episodes worked. If people remember, like, there were problems, and sorry, my nose is getting a bit itchy because hay fever, and sorry if I sound a bit bummed up as well because I've got bad hay fever right now. It's that time of the year where hay fever really gets me. But anyway, go back onto what I was saying. Not everybody seems to forget that during the David Tennant era of Doctor Who, as good as it was overall as an era, some of the plot points in the episodes didn't make total sense. And you get that a bit in this season of Doctor Who as well. I'm not going to say you don't, but the thing is, I think Doctor Who is at its best when it's moving fast, when it's exciting, when it's thoroughly enjoyable, and when you feel attached to the characters and you feel engaged in what's going on. And again, although the last episode of the season had its issues here and there, I was engaged in it throughout. It was 67 minutes long. Yeah, no wonder. I was thinking, it does have the runtimes here. I don't know why I couldn't see them, but yeah, 67 minutes long the last episode was. And it felt like that, and in all the right ways. Each episode of the series might not be completely perfect, and I'm not saying any episode of this season of Doctor Who are the best episode of Doctor Who that I've seen, period, but each episode had me engaged in what's going on, had me entertained, and got me surprised at the same time, and in all the right ways. Plus, I loved Ncuti Gatwa in the season of Doctor Who. In this season, he really came into his own as a Doctor. Not to say I disliked him in his first season, not at all. I think he's a splendid actor. I've loved him ever since I saw him in Sex Education. I think he was the best part of the fourth season, which was a really shockingly poor season of that show. But, in my opinion anyway. But with these last season of Doctor Who, I thought he was really good, but I just didn't feel we got to see enough of him. He wasn't in those two episodes where it felt like he was barely in it. And yet, in this season, there is one episode where he's not in it that much. But even in that episode, which is Lucky Day, you feel the full power of him as the Doctor. And I think that's what you really get to see in the season. He really comes into his own as a Doctor, which is a little bit bittersweet to say, and I'll get on to that a bit later in this review without going into spoilers just yet. But I thought he was fantastic as the 15th Doctor in this season, and yeah, he really came into my own. He's now become one of my favourite Doctors. I still might prefer Matt Smith and David Tennant, but Ncuti Gatwa is definitely a close follow-up to Matt Smith. I mean, give it time. Maybe on a rewatch I might even prefer Ncuti Gatwa. Maybe, but as for now, I think he's just sitting at a very close third on the list of my favourite Doctor Who's. And I loved how the season used Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. She isn't in as much of the season as expected, but she is used, and I think she's used to great effect. Whenever she is used in the series, I thought it fit with the character, with what we know about the character coming out the first season. It made sense why she wasn't on the journey with the Doctor, and I thought that, yeah, Millie Gibson returning worked really well. I actually liked her storyline more in this season than I did in the first season, because she didn't feel as integral to everything going on, but at the same time she still felt very important, and I thought that worked. Plus, Varadat? I think it's Varadat Sethu as Belinda was wonderful in this season. Wonderful. I really liked her storyline. I thought that her storyline was more satisfying than Ruby's storyline, with the conclusion to Ruby's storyline at the end of the first season. I thought the conclusion to Belinda's storyline was actually quite emotionally effective as well, which I didn't expect. How they concluded her storyline up, I thought worked very well and made sense with the rest of the season. Like, throughout the season she keeps saying, I have to get back to May the 24th, and you're like, why does she have to get back to there? Why did she have to get back to this point, and why is the TARDIS stopping her from getting back to this point? And then when you get to the final two episodes, it makes sense why, and I thought that was done really well. Yeah, that was the the underlining narrative throughout the season, and I was afraid going into the last two episodes that it wouldn't be concluded well, but I did find the last episode in particular, more emotionally satisfying than the end of the last season. And that's the thing, this is a more satisfying season of Doctor Who. It ties things together more, and even so, there are some loose plot lines, which I'll get into very shortly later on in this review, coming out of the season. I came away from the season thinking, that felt like Doctor Who to me, and you know what? Each episode in its own way had its time to shine. And yeah, I love this season of Doctor Who. I love the music by Murray Gold. Murray Gold always does great music for Doctor Who. Always. Ever since he did the music during the Christopher Eccleston era, and then did the music into David Tennant, Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi eras. He didn't do the music during the Jodie Whittaker era, but he's back doing the music again now, and I'm so glad that he is. I love Murray Gold's scores for Doctor Who, and yet again, I love his scores for this season of Doctor Who as well. Yeah, there's just so much that I enjoyed about this season of Doctor Who. So much that I loved. And that's the thing. Spoiler alert here, I'll be surprised if you hadn't heard about this because it's all over the news since it's happened. This is the last season we're going to get with Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. I mean, as far as we're aware, who knows what Rusty Davies has in store? Because I didn't think he would do that thing at the end where Ncuti Gatwa regenerated into Billie Piper as a Doctor. I thought that was a wild twist that I did not see coming. So who knows? Maybe Ncuti Gatwa returns in the future in a couple of episodes or in a special. I wouldn't put it past Russell T Davies. Nevertheless, it doesn't sound like he's ever going to come back as a Doctor fully, and that's sad to say, because he was so good as a Doctor, and I would have loved to see him get another season playing the Doctor. Because I think if he got another season, then people would love him even more, and I love him as a Doctor. But it kind of feels like it was a bit shortchanged, because he got, only 16 episodes playing the Doctor, and in those 16 episodes, three of those episodes he wasn't in fully, and I just feel like, yeah, maybe Ncuti Gatwa after Barbie became, after Sex Education at that, became very big and started to do too much. And that's the thing, when you're the Doctor, it feels like you have to, it feels like that's your only acting role. If you noted with actors who've taken on the Doctor in the past, they don't usually do many other things when they're playing the Doctor. They might do occasional, small film or small TV role, but they don't usually. And yet, what you've been seeing with Ncuti Gatwa as a Doctor, what you've been seeing with Ncuti Gatwa whilst he's been playing the Doctor, should I say, is that he has been doing other things on the side. He has been starting in other stuff. He's been on the West End, he's been doing plays, and he's meant to be starring in a movie later this year. So it's like, okay, this is a little worrying when I heard that all this was happening. And I saw all the reports saying that Ncuti Gatwa was stepping down as the 15th Doctor, but honestly, I didn't want to believe any of those reports. And I didn't believe in them anyway, because some of the reports were coming from places like The Sun, and for the most part I don't believe articles from The Sun, but they proved to be correct. And I don't think it's because of low ratings. I think anybody who says that is wrong. I just think it's because Ncuti Gatwa got really busy. I think Hollywood wants him. I think he's going to star in loads of movies now, and you know what, good for him. I just would have liked to seen him do at least another season of the Doctor, as a Doctor, should I say. I just would have loved to see him do another season. Because he never got to face off the Daleks and the Cybermen, which is a shame. I think he's the only Doctor not to do that, if I'm correct, which is, a real shame. So, I'm sad to see Ncuti go. He's going on a high. He is going on a high with this season, I'll say that. But I just would have loved to see him do another season and then go out on an even higher note, But Billie Piper, well, according to reports, is now our next Doctor. The reason I said according to reports is because at the end of the episode, she wasn't credited as the new Doctor, as the 16th Doctor. But according to reports, Billie Piper, who played roles in the David Tennant, in the Christopher Eccleston era and David Tennant era as a Doctor Who, is now playing the Doctor, which is wild. I don't know how that works, and I think it's an insanely clever decision at the end of the season, because Doctor Who hasn't been renewed yet. It hasn't been renewed for a third and fourth season by Disney Plus, who I think hold the distributing rights to it in America, maybe in the UK as well, I'm not entirely sure. But the point I'm making is, Doctor Who hasn't been renewed yet, and this is a way to get people wanting to see more Doctor Who, ending on a twist. I personally thought that the twist at the end of the season was going to be like the Daleks and the Cybermen show up, which I would have loved, but I equally love what they did at the end of the season. It's like, okay, now I want to see how that continues. And I'm hoping it continues well. I think it also opens up the doors with David Tennant returning again, which, if you've been watching the latest episode of Doctor Who, you know that's a strong possibility. So yes, I loved the end twist of this season. I just hope Ncuti, I just wish that Ncuti Gatwas stuck around for another season. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he comes back. This might be a wild tinfoil hat theory, and maybe it is. But, you know, I got a feeling that the end of this era of Rusty Davies being the showrunner of Doctor Who, assuming that it all happened, because again it hasn't been renewed, at least as far as I'm recording this review on Sunday the 1st of June. But if this era of Doctor Who all happens, what I think might happen is we see all the Doctors come back in this modern era. Maybe not Christopher Eccleston, obviously, because of varying reasons. If you don't know the reasons, go and look him up online. He didn't have the best time playing the Doctor, long story short. But David Tennant's still about as the 14th Doctor. If you've seen the specials, you know what I mean. Matt Smith, I think, has said in the past that he'd come back as a Doctor. Jodie Whittaker came back as a Doctor in the last episode of this season in a wonderful way. And sign note here, although it isn't a sign note, it's still related to this review. Those 2 minutes, it might not have been 2 minutes, but however long it was that Jodie Whittaker came back to reprise her role as a Doctor in the last episode of this season was the best she's ever been written. I was watching her appearance in the last episode of the season thinking, I wish she got more writing like this. You know? Because so many people look back on the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who as a failure, and I personally don't like that era either, because it had a lot of bad writing. But I don't think that era was bad because we had our first female Doctor, not at all. I think it was bad because of the writing. And I think, and I'm standing by this, if Rusty Davies wrote that era of Doctor Who where we had our first female Doctor, people look on it very differently. And now he's writing, well, presumably, a new female Doctor in Billie Piper as the 16th Doctor, and I bet you he's going to do a stellar job. But going back into what I was saying with Jodie Whittaker and her appearance, her reprising a role in the last episode of this season, I thought that was wonderful. And that was my favourite. That's probably my favourite time that I've seen her play the Doctor, just because of the writing. You know, Matt Smith has spoken about this in the past. He played the 11th Doctor, and he's spoken about this in the past. He said that the Doctors are only as good as their writing, and I really do think that's the truth. I think that's why I think that Ncuti Gatwa really came into his own in this season of Doctor Who, because the writing was better in this season than it was in the last season, in my opinion. And I think that's why I like Jodie Whittaker so much in her small appearance in this last episode. And that's why I like David Tennant so much, because the writing was so good during his era. So I really do think that is the truth. And that little appearance from Jodie Whittaker in this episode proved that. So yeah, I'm really happy that Jodie Whittaker got to come back with good writing in this last episode. I don't want to sound mean to anybody who liked the Jodie Whittaker, by the way. If you did, that's great. It just wasn't for me personally because of the writing. But seeing Billie Piper come in as potentially the 16th Doctor, which again I don't think has been officially confirmed yet. Do correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's officially been confirmed yet. Is setting things up for a wild time to come, and a time that I am here for. I like that Doctor Who is taking these risks now. I like that it's going all these different directions that it hasn't been going before. Last season we got musical numbers. This season we're getting twists that you don't see coming, like the end of this season. I really thought that Ncuti Gatwa was going to stick around for at least another season. Apparently not. But, like I said before, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back to do more in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if we got like an army of the Doctors versus an army of Daleks at the end of this era of Doctor Who. Is this probably a wild tinfoil hat theory? That won't happen. Wouldn't it be great? at the end of this era of Doctor Who, if we get all the Doctors from the reboot era, maybe not Capaldi because he's spoken about how you want to come back, but the Doctors that are willing to come back and face off against the Daleks and the Cybermen in a big cinematic event. Wouldn't that be great? It probably won't happen now because I've just said that, but wouldn't it be hella entertaining? I would be first in line to go watch that at the cinema if that was the case. But back on to this season. I think this season of Doctor Who is bittersweet because it's so good, yet sad that it's Ncuti Gatwa's last season. I really wanted to see him do more because he's such a wonderful actor, and maybe we will see him do more. I have faith that we will. He's still quite a young actor. He's going to be around for quite a bit of time, so I do think we will see him return as a Doctor. Who knows when? Who knows how? Maybe in the next season, maybe in a couple of seasons' time, or maybe it's for one of the specials further down the line. Maybe for like the 70th anniversary special. I don't know. But the point I'm making is, I do think we'll see him again, but it's just sad that we might not ever see him do, or that we probably, or almost definitely won't see him do a full season again. Because he was so good as a Doctor, and this season really proved how good he was a Doctor. How good he was as a Doctor. I hate all these people online who just say, oh, Doctor Who's now ruined because it's woke. I'm sorry, Doctor Who's always been woke. Woke isn't a bad thing when you actually know what it is. Like, some people just throw on the word woke and don't know what it means. And the fact is, Doctor Who, ever since it rebooted in 2005, has been woke. Just look at the David Tennant era. It's about as woke as you can get. And this era as well, and I love that about this era. Call me, I don't know, a woke shill or whatever, but I don't care. I love the inclusiveness and the progressiveness of this season of Doctor Who. I love how progressive Doctor Who is becoming now, and this season really proves that, and it's another reason I love this season. I love this season of Doctor Who. I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again because I'm so happy to say this, because I didn't love the last season, and I went into this season thinking, oh god, I hope I'm going to love it, but I might not, and I've come out of this season thinking, you know what, I love that. That to me felt like Doctor Who. Every episode I look forward to watching. Every episode I got excited about watching. And every episode delivered in one way or another. And that's how I felt about David Tennant eras back in the day. And much the same way as the storytelling in Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor Who mirrored the storytelling of David Tennant eras of Doctor Who. I love how we are now getting... And I love how the quality of Ncuti Gatwa's era is mirroring the quality of David Tennant's era. I hope that Doctor Who continues. I hope that we get to see more of Doctor Who, because it only feels like it's going to get better from here. Maybe it won't, maybe it won't. But I have total faith after one heck of a season of Doctor Who. And so, all in all, I'm going to Doctor Who Season 15. I'm going to say that it's I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, I'm going to give it that. Again, it's not without its flaws, but I don't really want to go into the flaws. People have been going on about the flaws of the season non-stop. I know it has its problems, and I do think that if Doctor Who continues, it needs to tone down the amount of side characters you see. Like in the last episode, there's a hell of a lot of characters in one episode. I like that, but I think going forward, just take out a couple of characters, maybe not have all these characters come back in the final couple of episodes of each season. But again, I could go into the problems with this season of Doctor Who. I could, at length. If I sat down in the seat for hours and went on and on and on and on about each problem with each episode, I could probably find quite a lot of problems, But the thing is, I came away from the season satisfied, entertained, and emotionally satisfied at that. And to me, this felt like the Doctor Who that I enjoyed. So that's why it worked, and that's why it really worked to me at that. Every episode works in its own way, and it's a bittersweet season because it's Ncuti Gatwa's last season, but it's also one heck of a season to go out on. I just wish he got to face off the Daleks. I wish he did, and maybe he will. Who knows? I've got my tinfoil hat theory. Maybe he will. But I'm not gonna get my hopes up too much. It sounds like Ncuti Gatwa is now going to go off and do amazing things, and I'm so happy for him. And I'm looking forward to seeing Billie Piper as a Doctor going forward. When I look back on this season, as much as I love it, it's also going to come with a bittersweet feeling, because Ncuti Gatwa only got 2 seasons of Doctor Who, and on his 2nd season, I think that's when he really got to shine. And that's ultimately, on top of everything, why I love this season. Ncuti Gatwa is at the forefront of this season of Doctor Who, and in all the right ways. And it shows how good he is as the Doctor. I don't care what anybody says, Ncuti Gatwa is an amazing Doctor Who, and I'm so glad that he took on the role, and I'm so glad that we got to see him as a Doctor, even if it was for a short amount of time. And yeah, I loved this season of Doctor Who, as I said quite a few times in this video today, so I'm going to round things off by saying once more that Doctor Who Season 15 is a 8.5 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Doctor Who Season 15, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this video. And look forward to many more videos and many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.